We have to change the conversation and make this about happiness and self-awareness, not money.
So I have no interest in being the business owner or the entrepreneur. I want to be...
Could you imagine being able to quit your job at 42? For me, like, I will crush if Babin just takes a fucking phone on Instagram, sign into my stories and be like, what was that meeting about? Like the rant I just gave you and you were like, yes, I can do that at will. Inspired me to do this. I'm gonna start putting out content of things of how I built my firm, what I've learned, things that I think people should look out for in my expertise, tips. So that's what I would say, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm. Well, that goes to the other word I love so much. You lack patience. Up. Don't beat yourself up. Don't. We have to change the conversation and make this about happiness and self-awareness, not money.
So I have no interest in being the business owner or the entrepreneur. I want to be the best number two.
I love that.
I would like to know what you would say to your number two. What's the best way to add to the productivity and the value of the company?
By reverse engineering the number one's shortcomings.
Okay.
The best thing a number two can do is close the gaps of a number one.
Cool.
Are you a good match to your number one?
Yes.
Well, then that's a good starting point. You know, to me it's about complementary skills at that level. And so it's just, you know, a lot of times number two struggle because they want to do, or they're equally have the same talents as the number one, and that's where friction comes from. I think it's a game of complementary skills, and so the relationships that I've seen and the ones that have worked for me is when the number two is filling in the blanks of the number one and allowing the number one to do her or his magic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate you validating that.
And you're deeply unhappy and doing cocaine to escape your problems, or do you want a Honda and be pumped?
For me though, when I was 13, I wanted to do a very large charity project. I had to raise $40,000 to complete it, and I was told no, I couldn't do that.
Yes.
It was too big for my age.
Yes.
It wasn't something I was going to be able to achieve. I was setting myself up for failure. Long story short, I was able to do it, but I think a lot of people get turned off at that point and they're told no, that's not something you can do, and they just walk away from it, and they get turned off from charities and nonprofits. What advice do you have for people when it comes to starting, and especially if they're met with negativity that they're told no, this is something that you can't do?
Learn to love to lose. Like, that's the whole punchline of everything I believe in. I love losing. Where are you at this point in your life between money, legacy, the process? If I said 30-year-old you right now, between genuinely in your stomach, in your heart, in your gut, about how much you're driven by and how much you like, the net win is around dollars, is around being able to do your process, and around legacy. Do you think that's because you checked some sort of box for yourself along the way versus 20-year-old you?
No, here's what I say. I think I had you money when I had 10 grand.
Yeah, I get that. I understand. Yeah, I do know that.
Like, and then once I was like, wait a minute.
I still don't think I've ever been more rich than when I was doing baseball card shows at 13. Because $3,000, $4,000 when you're 13 and you came from nothing, I thought I had like $1 trillion. It's not weird at all.
But,
and what you guys talk about? Just shoot, like guy talk, girls, sports, just random? Or would you talk about dreams?
business. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this dude had served 25 years in prison. And
very hard. I get it. I grew up in it. It's very hard for somebody that doesn't have much to have empathy for somebody who's driving a BMW and has a Rolex. But, based on all my readings, all my DMs, I get, at this point in my life, I have hundreds of thousands of interactions per month, year, whatever it is. It's just a lot of interactions. I see far more sadness in people that had too much than in people who had too little. I see envy in people that don't have as much. I see drive in people that don't have as much. I see resentment in people that don't have as much. I see deep lostness in people that had too much, I love losing. Here's why. If I went at 16 to start a charity to raise $40,000 and I didn't, they were right. And I appreciate the experience of that loss. I adore losing because it's fair. You actually talked big game and you were wrong. You were naive and young and you deserve that loss.
I love the type of smile talking about this.
I'm sure if we look back at all my content, like I'm not excited about winning. Like it's why I even jumped in and said, no, I don't relate with that, right? I relate with losing. I like underdogs. I can watch a sporting event that I have no vested interest in, come in, start rooting for the underdog, and then as the underdog's winning and it looks like they're gonna win, reverse back to rooting for the favorite. Like I'm always rooting for whoever's in the worst spot. It's like a sports mentality. You go 0 for 8, 2 days in 0 for 4, 0 for 4 in baseball. Like cool, you can go 3 for 3 and hit 2 home runs. And like you have your life in front of you. That's what leads to so much happiness. You can be 37 watching this right now, everything bad. Everything, you have 60 years. Everything. Because when you get to that moment when you've got a gun in your mouth, sitting in your Bentley, and with 13 zeros in your bank account, you don't give. Actually, I think more people hold themselves back than think they can actually do it.
Yeah.
I think there's more people that can actually do it.
Become rich.
Or just happy. Like when I hear rich and famous now, it was funny, you just said those 2 words, and literally in my head I'm like happy. Because you know this now too. If you're happy, you're about to get real happy. If you're sad, you're about to get real sad.
You're not guaranteed happiness with money.
The biggest thing that kids struggle with, contextualizing time. What's really interesting, actually, right before 2 seconds before I took the stage, a gentleman grabbed me. When I spoke in Nashville, we did like a consulting session thing beforehand, so I got like 2 hours with different people, and he just grabbed me and he's like, hey, I just want you to know, I know you gotta take stage right now, but I took your advice and I quit my job, but I also moved back to San Diego to do it, and I decided to pursue happiness over money, and it really hit me. Obviously, you know, when you go on stage, getting something that feels that nice right before you go on, between being back home and hearing something like that, it's got me in a really interesting mindset. If there was, out of all the things we talked about, if on my parting shot I can inject something into you, it would be one thing. For you to feel the way I feel right now, about 43 years old. When I was 22 and I started working at my dad's liquor store, my cousin Bobby worked there. He was my dad's first cousin, but my grandma was older than me. Punchline was he was only 8 years older than me because it was like kind of that like skip generation kind of things with like older siblings. He was 30. When I walked in that first day at 22, and I'd worked with him since I was 14, but like when it became real, I'm like, I'm a professional now. And we just spent a lot of time together, best friends, right? Like 15 hours a day in a liquor store together, small ones, like every day, right? I thought he was so old. I hate it. I hate it. I hate like reading like, you know, bad stuff about me. It's devastating. I think there's one hack for becoming more self-aware, which is asking people around you and creating a safe zone, a permission for them to actually tell you about you from their perspective, and it's on you to create that safe place so that they actually tell you things that you may not want to hear.
Yeah.
And that, if you go deeper, is grounded in the fact that I don't give a what anybody thinks about me.
Yeah.
If I completely collapse and go to zero and everybody here and all of social and all of internet says, see, he was full of shit, he wasn't good, I genuinely wouldn't care.
Yeah.
I just have no interest in living my life based on other people's opinions.
Thank you.